Homework is an integral part of today's education system. It is something to cause much distress among teens, parents, and even teachers. But homework is a double-edged sword. Teachers assign it and students dread it. So is it a virtue or a vice? Overall, homework is beneficial to students because it grows them as intellectuals and as social beings. It is most effective when done in a way that encourages them to complete the tasks rather than punishing them for neglecting the tasks. The first step to acting upon recommendations is to understand the consequence. In this case, the consequence is positive. Homework is beneficial in many areas. Students who spend more time on homework achieve higher, according to Monica Fuglie. NYU and Duke have conducted studies yielding sufficient evidence to suggest a positive correlation between work done and test scores. But test scores aren't the only notable achievements for students. Homework also helps with responsibility, time management, perseverance, and self-esteem, according to Monica Fuglie. Not only does homework educate on specific material that the students are learning, but it gives them skills that will help them with education and life after education. Responsibility is an essential skill in parenting. Time management is necessary for maintaining a relaxed and balanced schedule. Perseverance is needed in very critical situations, and you may not know that you'll need it until you need it. And self-esteem is crucial as we create many social relationships throughout our life. Yes, homework helps with learning to read and write, to add and subtract, but it goes far beyond that. By doing work, students are mastering skills taught in the classroom and also tapping into resources that they'll use for the rest of their lives outside of the classroom. They will use these skills when they transition into individuals with professional and personal lives. Now that we know the fact that homework is important, we need to discuss how we'll act upon the importance. Encouragement to students will create a willingness to learn, and that will make studying worthwhile. As grade level increases, the more options there are. High schoolers want to prepare for college by taking harder classes and by deciding their courses for themselves. This means that not everyone should have the same workload, according to Caitlin Blake. In a high rigor class, students that choose to enroll have more motivation to do so because they're choosing what they want to learn. They're not learning something just because. They're learning facts and skills for the sacred sake of learning. Again, not just because they're told to, it's because they want to. And this also, for some students, their incentive is for preparation for their future. They know that they're going to need this in college and beyond. This is the crux of optimal homework efficacy. I have a very personal connection with this phenomenon. I love math. I always have. I always will. You guys know that from my other speech. In high school, I took all AP classes in math that were offered to me. But I didn't like English and history as much, so I relaxed a little bit on the humanities side and took it easier. This allowed me to have challenging assignments in the classes that I genuinely was interested in and less forced learning in the classes that I didn't care about. This doesn't mean everybody deserves a get-out-of-jail-free card for their least favorite subjects. This just means we need to understand the principle that we need to assign heavily in the areas where knowledge is craved and less heavily in the source subjects in order for the work to have the desired effects. This is a rewarding adjustment and should be done on the student's end so that they know where they will work harder and where they might need a bit of a break. The math nerd in me likes to think that learning new equations will create world peace. Wouldn't that be nice? However, the world isn't that simple. Where my inner math nerd is lucky, however, is that by learning challenging mathematical concepts, I now have more refined critical thinking skills that do take me just beyond equations. I can apply this in any situation. This goes for people who excel in every discipline, whether we're encouraged to challenge ourselves or we just end up being challenged. We become educated in and out of the classroom in many ways that would be unteachable if we weren't assigned homework every night, or at least on a weekly basis. Monica Fuglie illustrates a couple practical ways to make homework work for you. The first being spaced repetition, which is a way for material to be covered and revisited over time. This is an alternative to cramming. I have been told many times by teachers that cramming is not the way to do it. And so this can be initiated by the student, and they can take it upon themselves to space repetition when they're given something to study, or it can be initiated by the teacher, and the teacher can tell their students, do this every night, so they don't have to cram it all at once, or the teacher can give students specific chunks to do every night so that it's not possible for them to cram. Another way is retrieval practice. It's an avenue for a historical persona to be taken on. This is really beneficial in a social science discipline like history or psychology or sociology. And the student creates an emotional connection with the historical figure. For example, if I was to be studying about Anne Frank, I myself take on Anne Frank, and that way I now feel an emotional connection, and I actually want to continue with studying because I now feel almost guilty if I don't. This creates the motivation necessary for the individual to value completion and hard work. This is what we're going for here, is for the students to value completion and hard work, because if they don't, then they don't see the value in their homework. And as we know now, homework is valuable. So if I get a connection personally to Anne Frank, then I will be more likely to complete my homework if I have to study things about her. The content being studied is no longer random and disconnected after it becomes personified, because me and Anne Frank are now besties. Another engaging tactic for learning is called desirable difficulty. This is done by breaking convention to grab the attention of the learner. This can be used not only in math, even though I do talk about math a lot, but also as English subjects go, by changing the predictable order of unusual operations. So for math, you could do, instead of saying an equation that says y equals mx plus b, you could say y equals b plus mx, and it kind of just throws people off, but it gets students engaged and makes them want to learn and want to understand what's going on, and it's a little bit different, and they feel like they're rebelling almost. Same for English. There actually are a lot of literary devices that do this on purpose that I learned in my past classes that I honestly should have paid more attention in, but didn't. But there are lots of devices that are used to make the diction and syntax stand out so that it's a little bit different, and it kind of tricks the brain into thinking that there's something new going on. Homework is essential and needs to be designed and assigned with intentionality for maximum benefit, like I mentioned with the example of the Anne Frank assignment. But if we are carefully designing and assigning, wouldn't that mean in some cases no work is the most beneficial kind? Monica Fugly does say that benefits are not seen for children before high school. While high school is the time to hit the ground running with work diligently, those habits do not come out of thin air. According to the Room 241 team, older kids need building blocks to have a strong foundation in the future for their study skills. This means that they must focus on skills like how to use technology and other resources while they're young, so that when they're older and they learn more complex concepts, they can actually apply what they're learning with their new technology. Careful design means the age, subject, and prior education of the learner must be taken into consideration in order to assign exercises that are worthwhile. This does not mean the omission of homework is adequate. The middle schooler without proper elementary practice won't have the work ethic to operate in a way that they will be able to sustain for the rest of their educational career. You need to start early and fill every gap. Carefully designed work encourages a continuation of learning instead of putting an excuse for a lack of learning. Assigning homework is no easy task, let alone completing it. But as of all things of value, the tasks may be hard, but they are worth it. Homework is an entity that must be protected no matter how the times change, because when successfully implemented, students' learning experiences transcend the classroom, and the fruits of their labor will blossom immensely. As I come to the end of this speech, I have reminded myself of the importance of practice problems, and I too have tasks that need to be completed. So excuse me as I shift my focus from the fundamentals of speech communication to now my Calculus 3 homework. Thank you for listening.